Hello everyone, welcome to Naomi's Bookshelf. Welcome to a weekly wrap up. This is going to be something I am going to try to do. It's just, I have not been making accurate review videos or wrap up videos for months. This entire year has been a battle to even get out a wrap up of what I've read in a month or in 2 weeks. It is just so hard for me to put the mental energy into what I've been reading and then do all the editing, because a lot of the things I've been reading, I don't have physical books for. So then it's just a whole bunch more editing. And I'm sure everyone gets it who has a YouTube channel and makes videos. It can be a lot of work. So I have been overwhelmed with this for months. And so every time like, oh, I should film a wrap up, I never do. And so I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to discussing all of the books I read prior to August, but I'm gonna try this. This is gonna be my new attempt, shall we say. Sorry if I am sweaty. It's been it's end of work day and this is the best time. However, my plan for this is going to be to film it after work on Mondays, because Mondays tends to be it's the best night for me to film and upload. So I'm hoping that will be my routine. It's gonna be something where I talk about what books I've read, what books I'm in the middle of, what books I have DNF'd in the week, that kind of thing, and just kind of a very all-encompassing and hopefully something easy for me to film and edit, and also something that's fun for you to watch on a regular basis so I can actually get my reviews out there. That would be really nice. But like I said, I have been stressing, so I'm just gonna take it a little easier on myself. The first thing that I read was Femme Fatale by Guy, I still did not learn how to pronounce his name, Guy Maupassant. This one is a collection of 4 stories written by this author, and this man lived for 50 years in like the Victorian era, and it is, I don't know if it's worth reading or not. Basically, it's about women who don't abide by what men want them to do. So if the woman friend zones them, then suddenly they're teased and they're horrible. But it's like, but they said no and you didn't listen. So it's your own fault that you're spending money on her. That was the first story. And then she ends up being, of course, so that one's called Cockcrow. And it was just like, seriously, I was just annoyed. And then Femme Fatale, the story itself that this collection is named off of, or after, it was about a young man and a woman who are practically engaged, but they're not married yet. And her friends are scandalous in nature. And it sounds like the 4 of them live in a house and have no set relationship rules, which is very anti-cultural to this book, time era. And basically this young woman wants to hang out with her friends and her boyfriend says, no, you're not doing it. And I loved the way she was like, you know the way out then. Like she actually says, you know the way out. I am not your wife. You can't tell me what to do. So I loved that. But then basically it comes down to the fact that she becomes a femme fatale by just not agreeing with a guy. It's not like she planned his demise. It's just, so yeah, I don't know. And then Hottet and Son was an interesting one. It was about a woman who is the mistress to this man and he died, but he never made her legitimate, or her son who she had by him. So then his son goes to like tell the news that his father's passed and her partner passed, and then he meets his half brother and then it becomes a tradition for them. It was weird. And the last one was Laid to Rest, and I honestly don't remember that one, but I remember the woman was portrayed quite nicely in this, but I think that's because she was a doormat. So basically, it's been a long way to say, this book is not something that you should read if you are sensitive to how people treat women in classic literature. It is, I think, interesting to look at a perspective that is so outdated about women and how things have changed. But it's definitely something that was appropriate, or maybe not appropriate, but it was acceptable in that time and era, which it isn't acceptable now, and how we treat each other. So yeah, that one has been read. I did read this one for the Legendary Readathon, and I have not started my next, my retelling of it, essentially. I haven't started Marnie, but I am excited to get to that pretty soon. I have an ebook of it, but I'm right now reading a lot of arcs. So let's get into those. The first one is The Warrior King, and this one is by Doris Leslie. Now this one is about Richard the Lionheart, and I think I'm giving this one 4 stars, 3 stars. And it's not that it's a bad thing on the author. It's just I discovered while reading this one that I don't like war accounts. So this one is obviously about Richard the Lionheart, at least that much I know, and how he went on these crusades and how his entire reign was handled this. And it goes into his marriage and his relationships and how his sister was along for the ride into the Holy Land. But it was it's something I haven't learned a lot about. So I was happy to have read that. But at the same time, it really exposed to me the fact that I'm not a person who loves reading the graphic details of a battle scene. And I don't love the graphic or the strategic outlying things and how the war plays out. I'm not someone who enjoys that. I'd rather them just say, they went to war, this happened, they won, and it'd be a paragraph as opposed to a full book. But that's just me. It's not the author's fault or the content's fault. So yeah, I think it was really interesting for what the content is and how it's about Richard and how he became king, how he was as king, and then when he came back to England, what happened after that. Thought it was really interesting. It also mentioned the legend of Robin Hood. So I have read Robin Hood, is it possibly real? And then I owned a copy of the Robin Hood Legends, which I have never completed. I just never got into them. But it was interesting to read about that time and era. So yeah, I think I'll give it a 4 because it might not be my personal particular taste, but I did learn a lot and I enjoyed a lot of it. And I think it's well worth reading if you are at all interested in Richard the Lionheart. I keep wanting to call him Richard II, but I feel like he's Richard III and I can't remember now. But anyways, it's just something that you should definitely check out. Another arc that I read was Matilda II, The Forgotten Queen by Joanna Armen. This one was about Matilda, who is so frequently left behind in history, because often we hear about her mother or her daughter, and both of them had a similar name. Now, I think it was interesting to read a book about Matilda and not have it be about the people around her. This was a very short book. It was 150 pages, 200 pages. So it's not super long, but at the same time, it was about Matilda. It was about her family. It was about her upbringing. It was about her marriage and about her children, and also about her love of education and literacy and how she really strived for that. Her love of languages, where she was very adept with it. Also, how her family grew and how they grew in influence, as well as her being, what's the word I'm looking for? She was in charge when her husband was away. I can't remember the word right now, but she did a lot of amazing things, and she really set the tone for how women are to live with being a queen, but also how they can advocate for things like poetry and how they can advocate for the arts in court. And that was something that she was criticized for, but at the same time, she advocated for it and she tried to promote education. And as a woman, when she was able to create her own biography, she commissioned a biography. It's a pretty impressive, seeing as she was a woman in 1100s. So she was a pretty incredible woman, and I'm really glad that I read about her and learned so much about a woman I did not know even existed. I'm sorry, like I said, long work day. The next one that I read was an arc as well, and that was called, Napoleonic Britain, a guide to fortresses, statues, and memorials of the French wars from 1792 to 1815 by David Buttery. Now, this was also one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm not a fan of war accounts. I might have to go through my bookshelves and pull out some that are like that and just get rid of them because I figured out that's not for me. So this one is very simply about the main players in the Napoleonic War from the British side. Like there was a chapter on Nelson, and then every place that Nelson went to or was famous at, or there's a statue of him there. There's like this for many of the characters, or leading figures, I should say, maybe, in the Napoleonic War. It also went into detail about like, so if you're going to Britain, or if you live there and you want to see some of these statues, how you can best go there, or certain houses, like how can you best go and visit them. It was really like a tour guide to the statues and memorials of the time. It was very interesting in that regard, and I really enjoyed learning about it, but also I'm not a war account person, as you can tell from the Warrior King. So I'm giving this one 4 stars, I think, because it does what it says it does. And it's just my personal level of interest that is lacking. But I think it was very well written, very well put together, and interesting to learn about and read. Let's move into the books I'm currently reading. So I have several on the go, a couple arcs. So the first one is The Hem of His Garment by Dr. Michelle Bengston. I'm gonna butcher that every time. I don't know why it's tripping me up. But this one is a nonfiction, Christian nonfiction about suffering and pain, specifically chronic pain or chronic suffering. Now, it doesn't have to be physical pain, as she describes in the book, but she also describes emotional pain and spiritual pain and financial pain and like all of these levels that you can feel suffering at. So it's really interesting how it covers so many things. And I'm just like, it's the perfect book. I'm already ready to give it 5 stars. And I'm like 45% of the way through. I was ready to give it 5 stars after chapter 1, to be perfectly honest. This one is just like, she talks about her own personal journey as she is a neurophysicist, I believe, and her chronic pain journey herself as she got to the point where she couldn't get out of bed some days. And I feel like when it's someone who actually has lived a part of it, it is so much more approachable. And it's not just, I'm better than you. It's actually, I've walked in your shoes. So it talks about her experience going through chronic pain and living with it all. It also goes into different Bible characters and Bible situations where we can lean into, and it has scripture references for everything. And I think there's such a fine balance between too fluffy, which is just personal experience, and that's fine if that's the book you're buying, but that's not the book what that's described here. So that's a thing, but then there's also when it's just literally Bible verses and not combined. And there's like this pendulum, and she has hit the perfect sweet spot. So there is like chapters about Job and Abraham and Hannah and the woman who touched Jesus's garment. And that is what the book is named after. And I really love this idea that she has in it where like every single chapter ends with her doctor prescription, and it's a prayer, and then it's her own hem that you can hold on to for that verse. Or so it's something like, you'll rise on eagle's wings, and you could hold on to that verse, and it's like touching the hem of his garment. That's the promise that you're leaning on. And it has thoughts that you can go over and different things like songs to listen to. It is just, it's perfection. And I am like, I wish I had read this before it came out so I could promote it before it came out, but I'm picking up a copy as soon as I can. Like, I am going to go and buy a copy, and I'm not even halfway through. It is not super long. It's like 250 pages, but it is so worth the money. And I am so excited to own it, tab it up, and read it. It is amazing. If you are a Christian and you want to read a book about chronic pain, this is such a perfect book. And it's not a, I'm better than you. It's not a, your suffering will be fine. Like, you're just imagining it. It is so good. And I can't express it enough. Like, I genuinely was ready to give it a 5-star and write my review after 1 chapter because I knew it would be that good. So yeah, definitely worth picking up if you are all interested. I'm also reading my illustrated version of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone like I had planned on it. I am really loving it. It's been years since I read it, and I read it on audio first, so I have never actually read a physical book of Harry Potter. And I am right now on chapter 12. So I have this much left on this side, but I just like, look at that art. It's just beautiful. And I am loving, like, this is Hermione here. I'm gonna just show you better. So, yeah, I am loving it, and I am very excited to keep going. I have that much left, and then I will probably pick up I'll probably pick up book 2 soon. I am excited to pick up Chamber of Secrets, since I own, I think, the first 5. No, first 5 I own. So I am excited to pick them up and now just commit to reading them this way, because it's just, their art is amazing. And so, yeah, really good. I have picked up more of Bleak House. I am now on chapter 31. I have not moved much, but I will say this, like, I will link my live streams that we do with Victoria and Christy, the playlist down below, but I am now hooked, okay? I have now, not like hooked. I'm nibbling around the hooking part, or the bait, essentially. I don't know how to say it. I am now here, and I finally, like, the first big thing was revealed, and I'm like, okay, now I'm interested. Yeah, I'm like, I love that I'm finally interested in something in this book, because it's a long way to go if I'm not interested. But I'm really annoyed with the fact that it took me literally 420 pages to get interested. If a book takes me that long to get interested, I am not going to commit to reading it, aside from like a buddy read or a group read like this. So I'm glad I finally I committed and I'm pushing through, but it should not take anyone this long to get invested in a book. Just my opinion. Something else of note that I haven't been super into recently, but I have been picking up the audiobook of here and there, and that is The Other Bennett Sister. So this one's by Janice Hadlow, and I've listened to 40% now, I think. I am enjoying it. I think that there's some things that I don't think would happen, but then again, this is essentially fan fiction that is published. It is, someone's idea of these characters, and I'm not going to fault Janice Hadlow for that idea. I personally loved Charlotte before her marriage, and then after her marriage, I'm not so thrilled. But at the same time, I can see where someone's coming from with that. So yeah, I'm 40% in, and I will be trying to listen to it more. But now that I'm interested in Bleak House, I might be listening to the audiobook of that, because honestly, I could not force myself to listen to it before I was interested. So we'll see what happens. Because I don't have an ebook of The Other Bennett Sister, which is a downfall for that. It might take me a while, but I'm going to continue listening to The Other Bennett Sister. I think I have 8 hours left of the audiobook. So yeah, so that's what I've read this week, what I'm currently reading. And I won't let you know what I'm hoping to read, because honestly, that could change in a heartbeat. I could read so many different things, and I don't want to redo a TBR every week. It's just not my thing. But I am interested in what I'm currently reading. Like the books I'm actively reading, I'm enjoying a lot. So I'm going to that. Oh, also, I just started an art today. I can't believe I forgot. It's called Voice of the Ancient by Connellan Cazette. And I am struggling with the format of reading it, but it is a biblical fiction about King Saul being anointed and becoming king, or crowning, and something about the battles after. I'm not sure what it is. I'm barely in, but it comes out today. So I need to get onto it. And yeah, I'm interested to keep going, but it's just a little hard to read at the moment, and I don't know why. So yeah, I'll probably read more of the Harry Potter book, because that seems to be what I just gravitate to when I have a spare moment. But I will let you know next week on Monday what I have been reading. I think this will be a good schedule for me. Let me know what you think of this video idea, if you think this will be a quick way. I mean, I'm already at like 20 minutes of filming, and I've only talked about 6 books, but this will be a little easier for me, I think. So yeah, let me know what you think of this all. Let me know what you're reading this week or what you've read in the past week. And if you've read any legends yet, because that would be always great. I will also link below, sorry, I'm so scatterbrained. I will link below in my description box the audiobook that I found of The Vampyre, The Vampyre by John Polidori, which is our group book for Legendary Readathon. I'll link that down below because it was a really good audiobook. I've started, but I haven't started enough to actually call myself reading it yet. So that's one of the goals for this week, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll link that because it was a really interesting voice I could tell. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and a subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.